Hello friends, I'm Brian, and this is Gizmo Board Games. Today, I am bringing you a review of Dune Imperium Uprising, a game by Paul Dennen and produced by Direwolf Studios and Legendary Games. Before I get into my actual review, I'm going to do what I usually do, and that is provide a brief overview of how the game plays. This is not a how-to play video in any means. I'm not going to go super in-depth, but just a little quick overview to give you an idea of what the game is. First of all, Dune Imperium Uprising is a standalone expansion to Dune Imperium, which already had a couple other expansions coming to it, and then they combined a lot of those concepts from that game and those expansions into another standalone game that is the Uprising version. So if you have the original Dune Imperium game, especially with the expansions, you're probably good to go and you won't need this. But if you've not got any of that content, this will kind of fill in all those gaps for you. I have not played the original Dune Imperium, nor any of its expansions, and a lot of those expansions are compatible with this version, but I have not played them. And I don't know much about the Dune intellectual property. I've never read the books. I think I saw the original 1970s, 80s, whatever it was, movie a long time ago. I don't remember anything about it. I don't know anything about this property as a theme. What I do know is I like this style of game. And what style of game is that? That is the game style that's kind of a kitchen sink. You do a little bit of everything in a box, but not to an overwhelming extent. And what I mean by that is this game is a bit of a worker placement game with deck building. Not only that, but you're managing resources and you're racing to 10 points or 10 rounds, whichever comes first. And points are so hard to come by in this game that it is a lot of work to get to those 10 points. But that work gets a little bit easier as the game progresses because you'll have more things at your disposal to do those or do the things you need to get those points. The main thing points are going to come from is from the battle. But in order to get to the battle at the end of each round, you need to do things during the round. So what are you doing? Well, you're taking your hand of cards, 5 cards in every round, just like a normal deck builder, from your deck. Everybody starts with the same standard deck, and you start with one main leader, which all have individual capabilities for them. So everybody's got a little bit of a different play style or a different little bit of help based on their leader. But on your turn, you're going to take your hand of cards, and one at a time, take turns playing down a card that is going to activate usually some card ability, but more importantly, give you some icons. And those icons are going to be the same on the board as where you're going to place one of your workers. So you're going to play a card, activate a card ability, but go to a space as indicated by the icons that are on that card on the board. And in those spaces, you're going to collect resources such as water, money, or spice are the 3 main resources. You can also collect cards, intrigue cards, which are going to help you do various things, and other items, which are going to eventually allow you to place your warriors. I don't remember if they're exactly called warriors, but your fighters basically into the board, or just generate more into your fortress if you don't want to put them out. But anytime you go to one of the battle sites, you are able to put out any accumulated warriors, as well as up to 2 more from your reserve into that battle. And you're going to keep going around doing this, playing a card and placing a worker until everybody decides that they're done, whether they're out of workers or they just want to stop. After that, instead of taking that action, you're going to get rid of the rest of the cards in your hand, activating kind of the bottom portion, and that's going to give you other influence or items, to allow you to purchase cards from the card row. And you're going to take those cards into your discard pile, and you'll have them for later use in your deck. In addition to that, you're going to have some abilities that are going to allow you to add more to your combat battle. And once everybody has passed and done their purchasing and their addition to combats, you'll go to the combat phase. And that's where you're going to look at everybody's combat power to determine who wins that combat. And at that point, you could play also intrigue cards that add to the combat as well. And whoever wins the combat will win that round's combat card, getting the first place resources and getting that card as well, because there are 3 different icons. I believe 3 different. There might be 4 different icons in the game. And when you get a pair of the same battle icons, you're actually going to earn a point. So that's one way to get a point in this game. Again, it's a race to 10, is to win 2 like combats. So you're also going to need to protect against other players winning 2 like combats. You might not even necessarily want the combat, but you're going to want to stop them from winning a like combat if you can and when you can. But you might just not want to, especially if other players are kind of in the battle. On those combat cards are also awards for 2nd and 3rd place. So if you're in the battle, there's a good chance you're going to get some kind of reward from participating regardless. And that's pretty much how the game plays. You're going to take turns playing cards in your hand to place workers, do what the worker placement spot does as every worker placement game, and work towards getting those battles taken care of at the end of each round. And then you will do this up to 10 rounds, or whoever gets 10 points first will end the game. And there's a little bit of in-game scoring from intrigue cards as well. So once the game ends, there are ways to potentially see the score adjust as well. And that's a really, really short summary of how to play Dune Imperium Uprising. I'm not sure what else is different from the regular Dune Imperium in this game, other than I know there are spy abilities which allow you to go to worker spots that are already taken, or to pull those spies when you go to a spot to get another card into your hand, and that allow you to have more of those rest actions in your hand. Or maybe you're cycling through looking for a specific thing. The other things you're going to do in the game, besides gather resources, is when you play into the 4 types of character, I guess they are, the 4 different colors. Every time you play over there, you're going to advance up a track. And once you reach certain thresholds, you either get a resource, or more importantly, you'll get a point and take kind of control of them, allowing you to access some locations that would otherwise be blocked out until you reach certain reputation levels with those guilds, I think they're called. So that's a slight thing that also adds to your points. And then the later battle cards are usually going to award you a point if you can cash in certain resources when you win them. But enough me rambling on. Hopefully that was enough of a quick overview of how the game plays. Let's get into my Gizmo thoughts. Starting off with, what do I think is good about the game? Well, like a lot of things I like, this one really has a really tight action selection, importance of taking spots in the right order, because everybody's going to be fighting for some of the same spots. And you've got to be able to go there with your hand. And I'll get into that with a little bit of the improves. But you're kind of racing to the more ideal locations as any worker placement game goes. And you're managing really tight resources, because in order to go to some spots, you're going to have to spend certain resources. Or you can spend certain resources to make that spot even better than it would initially have been otherwise. So there's a lot of things to balance in this game. And I always like those type of games where you got to really think through the balance of resource management and your action selection. And this game really does that. It also has interesting deck building mechanisms. Certain cards play off of one another really well. You're using those cards, as I mentioned, to take certain worker location spots. So you want to make sure, if you're trying to go for a certain strategy or playing off your leader card, you want to make sure you're collecting more of those cards you need when they come out to be purchased. So I just really like this. I like deck building in general. And so that's just another unique, cool aspect of this game. And despite the wealth of things going on, this isn't super overwhelming. I don't think this one would be super hard to teach to new players who have some familiarity with any basic, concepts of worker placement or deck management, or both, especially. I don't think this one's going to be one that's going to be too troublesome to teach someone who's got a little bit of gamer experience. I'm not saying take this to your grandma's house right now and she'll play it. But I'm saying if they have some experience with modern gaming, this one's pretty easy to pick up, because you really are just playing a card, placing a worker, and then doing the things. And once you get a round or two in, you've really got a feel for what you're trying to do, I imagine. So despite the lot going on, the kitchen sink, if you will, I don't think this one's overly overwhelming to get to the table. And finally, there is a bunch of variety in the box. There's 8 to 10, I think, leaders, just stack of cards that you're going to be able to purchase and shake up the game. And even though all the worker placement spots are made the same, I think there's enough variability in the box without any of the expansions. And there are some modules and expansion content available for this game as well. But I don't even know if you need it. I haven't played with it yet. There's plenty of variety just with what you get. So those are what I think is good. As far as what I think can improve, well, while I say this one's easy to pick up, this one does favor experienced players. When you know kind of what those battle cards are at the end of the stack, like I said, usually they're going to get you points if you win those battles, if you can turn in resources. You know they're coming if you've played before. You have an idea of how the cards are going to work, show up, layout. So you can come in with an already set strategy of making sure you're doing the things you need, so that way late game you can really get 2 and 3 points in a round, perhaps. So that's just one of the things that could improve, is somehow making this more beginner friendly. I don't know how. I don't have a solution. I'm just saying, if you're a beginner player and you're playing against people who've seen this game before, like I was the first time I played it, don't expect to be super competitive. And that's unfortunate. I like games that can be competitive from laydown. But this one advantages players who kind of know what cards could be coming. This game also, like a lot of games with a deck of cards and worker placement and things like that, it really can become timing dependent. As certain combat cards come out, you might not be ready for them that round. Or maybe you just bought a card that, helps you a little bit, and then you immediately flip a card, and that would have helped you a lot, and now you might not get it because someone else could buy it instead. So just the way the nature of the game is, with the random stacks of cards and not work placement, the deck building aspect of it. You just might not get the hand you need, because like I said, you need the icons to go to certain locations. And I know I played one round where I really needed to win the battle, and I didn't have any cards in my hand that would send me to any of the battle locations that would help me win the battle. And so I couldn't do that round, and in turn I ended up not winning the game by 1 point, I think. So just like other games like this, unfortunately, it is kind of luck dependent of when you draw certain cards or when certain cards and things become available. And lastly, despite the fact that you're literally playing to 10 points, this game can go pretty long. As you're taking your actions around the board, it really lends itself to a lot of thinking, especially later in the game when you're trying to maximize how you can best score some points. We played this at 3. I think it took us about 2.5, 3 hours. We did have one new player, but me and my friend were not new to the game at that point, and it still took longer than we anticipated really to play. So if that's something that bothers you, that could be something to look out for, especially if you got new players involved. But that's what I have for improvements. Is it easy to play? Well, I mentioned earlier, it kind of is if you're familiar with deck building and worker placement and some of the resource management, but it's not something I would introduce to brand new players. There is quite a bit going on, quite a bit to pay attention to on the board, quite a bit to think about, especially in the later rounds as the points really start to show up, and you really need to manage your actions and how you're going to try to keep in the game or get back into the game. So I think it's not super complex, but it is not super easy either. I would put this probably mid-weight. I don't know what the BGG rating is, but I would say this is probably a good mid to heavyweight game without being too heavy. More of it. As I mentioned before, there's plenty in the box. A big deck of cards, different leaders to cycle through. Everything adds a good amount of variability, replayability. And just the nature of the game itself, I think, is replayable. Even if you were playing with the same handful of cards, it still could play out differently. because of when they come out and what everyone around the table is doing that might be different than the previous game. So it's a lot of replayability. I've enjoyed playing this in a group mostly, which is rare for me. I only played this one solo once, and that was an interesting play as well. I'm not as predictable as playing other players when you can see what they're going for. So a little strike against the solo mode, but it's still fun and gets the game to the table for sure. And finally, is it original? What do I think about the originality of Dune Imperium Uprising? Well, for one, it's Dune Imperium again. So it's not even original to itself. It is taking everything it had done in the past and putting it into one box that I think fixes a lot of the issues that people might have had with the original game. I'm not sure. I've never played it, but it's not original. It's a re-implementation of itself. But it is unique enough. It really is the Dune Imperium, or the Dune IP, I guess. Like I said, I don't know much about it, but it seems that if you know Dune, I think it's got a lot of that stuff in there, the feel of Dune, and really going out and trying to collect the spice in the water, especially. I think also it's similar. It's often compared to games in the same vein, such as The Lost Ruins of Arnak and Endless Winter. I think both of those, and I like all three. I'm not sure if maybe one day I'll sit down and actually think about which one I like more than the others. All three games have their pros and cons, but I think this is different enough. This game, again, you're using the workers or using the cards in your hand to place workers on certain places. Whereas in Lost Ruins of Arnak, you're separately using your workers or your card on each turn. Your cards are one play you can do, and then your workers are a different play you can do, and you're trying to balance them together to stretch your turn out as long as you can. Whereas in Dune Imperium, your turn's over when you run out of workers. So you're playing a card and a worker simultaneously. Endless Winter doesn't really have the card play as much. There's a bunch of different cards, and it is a little bit of the card you play is, the worker you're going to send out. I haven't played that one in a while. It's similar enough, but that one has a lot of different kind of things going on with that kind of similar concept of play card, move, send worker out. So they're all similar, but different enough from each other that I could pick any one of them and play it for a different reason and get a different feel out of it. And then one other game I kind of want to compare this to, but definitely not in the same realm. I don't play many dudes on map games, which is what the main phase of this is that little battle section, because that's where you're going to get a lot of the points and resources from, is winning those battles. And Rumble Nation is another game where you're kind of managing where you're putting the cubes on the map and how they're doing it, so that way they can go and fight at the end, where you're not really affecting the fight as much after the fact. You're affecting the fight in the placement of the cubes. And so that's a similar, but definitely not in the same vein type of game. But that's what I came up with for another similar kind of feel game, Rumble Nation, as far as cubes on the board and that battle stage. So that's my thoughts, a little bit of overview, and then my gizmo thoughts on Dune Imperium Uprising for you to use however you need to. As far as my final rating, I do give this one 4.5 out of 5 gizmos, or around a 9 out of 10 on the Board Game Geek. It is a very good game. I've really enjoyed playing this one, surprisingly, because I wasn't really interested in the IP or the gameplay, because like I mentioned, it was similar, or I knew it was similar to these other games I really enjoyed. But pleasantly surprised at how much I do enjoy this one and how much it feels different enough to play on its own merits as well. So I really do enjoy Dune Imperium Uprising, and that's my video. If you like this review, give me a thumbs up, comment below your thoughts on Dune Imperium Uprising, and be sure to subscribe to see more videos from me. I try to release one new video every week, and I will see you on the next one.